In a 2005 report, the Office of the Inspector General, OIG, revealed that female cops were more likely to abuse male inmates sexually than the reverse case. It might seem shocking, but it is true. Sexual abuse corrupts correctional facilities, and those who engage in it will be caught. It is simply a matter of time. In this video, we look at 6 female cops caught seducing inmates defying prison laws and societal norms. The U.S. Zero-Tolerance Policy. In September 2003, Congress passed PREA, the Prison Rape Elimination Act, promoting a zero-tolerance policy for inmate sexual abuse or harassment. PREA applies to all correctional facilities, including prisons, jails, juvenile detention facilities, lockups, and community confinement facilities. PREA criminalizes any sexual relationship between correctional officers and inmates because of the imbalance of power. Even though the circumstances would be considered legal consent outside jail, it is still regarded as sexual abuse by the law. Inmates cannot legally consent because, in inmate-officer interactions, the officer wields enough power to coerce inmates into sexual relations and silence them, making it appear consensual. In general, it is believed that sexual abuse mainly involves male staff and female inmates. This is not the case. Female staff and male inmates, 47%. Male staff and female inmates, 43%. Male staff and male inmates, 8%. Female staff and female inmates, 2%. Despite efforts to mitigate staff sexual abuse in prisons, it is still a common problem. And as the 2005 reports show, female staff are often the worst offenders. The 6 women we would talk about in this video are among the most infamous, and their stories would make you cringe. 6. Charlene O'Banion. We would start with 33-year-old Charlene O'Banion. In 2021, Jacob Parker received a phone call from Charlene, and their conversation was as lewd as any between lovers. Listening to the calls, which were punctuated with babes, you would think Parker was on his way back from work, tired, and hoping to relieve stress with good sex from his woman. What you would not have guessed is that O'Banion was a jail deputy at Conroe Montgomery County Jail, in charge of keeping criminals behind bars, and Jacob was a convicted felon imprisoned in the jail facility. The calls, 400 in total, were evidence of a criminal act. A jail guard was having sex with an inmate. U.S. prison policy ensures that all calls made from prison are recorded. You would think that as a jail guard, O'Banion would be more careful not to get caught, but that she would soon meet her Waterloo due to negligence. After hearing rumors from her co-workers that they had seen her and Jacob together, an investigation was launched by the prison authorities. On December 17, 2021, Charlene was interrogated by 2 detectives, and it turned out to be a shocking conversation. The 33-year-old was ushered into a room and quizzed on her relationship with 28-year-old Jacob Parker. Jacob was in jail for unlawful firearm possession by a felon and resisting arrest. He also had an outstanding warrant for theft of property. At first, Charlene maintained that she had no relationship with Parker whatsoever. She also denied having phone calls with him. To save her hide, she invented a story about an ex-inmate, Justin Coker, who she believed might have spread rumors of an intimate relationship between her and Jacob due to jealousy. According to Charlene, Coker had contacted her outside jail, but she snubbed him. She believed he spread the rumors out of spite because he had seen her with Parker occasionally. When the detectives revealed that they had recorded phone calls between her and Parker, the ex-guard changed her story. She admitted knowing Parker before he was locked up, but denied being intimate with him. The story changed again after her interrogator said she had discussed having oral sex with Parker on the phone. She then confessed they had been in a relationship outside jail 3 years earlier. Phew, the story gets denser. The detectives are ready for this game of duck and dodge. After joining back and forth, they finally play a recorded call that seals O'Banion's fate. Her head fell to her hands as she listened to her voice on the tape. But to her credit, she does not give up easily. O'Banion sticks to her story and tells the detectives that Parker would also tell them the same thing she said. Nonetheless, she knows she is in for the docks. "I feel like I know the answer. I'm losing my job," she says at the end of the interrogation. In court, a detective would narrate that O'Banion confessed to having oral sex with Parker on November 17, 2021, in an area out of sight in the jail. According to the detective, a drug issue had prompted the prison authorities to bar all floor workers from a housing section called B Quad. O'Banion had asked for volunteers from inmates and conveniently picked Parker for cleaning duties in the section, where they proceeded to have oral sex. O'Banion was sentenced to 100 days in jail after pleading guilty to improper sexual activity with a person in custody. In the aftermath, her husband filed for divorce. Oh yes, she was married. 5. Kawana Jenkins. It is not unheard of for leaked records to become popular on social media, but a tape between a correctional officer and an inmate would most certainly have people talking. Twitter erupted into a frenzy after a video showed Kawana Jenkins engaging in sexually suggestive behavior with an inmate named Jamal Ward. During the early morning hours of January 28, 2023, a thorough shakedown of the maximum security wing of the prison was carried out. As a result, Jenkins, a guard working at the Fulton County Jail, was apprehended. During the search, 11 mobile phones, as well as over a dozen weapons, were discovered. The video was filmed by an inmate who has not been identified. After that, they started kissing each other intensely. Later on, her lover would ask her to give him something, and in response, she produced a pair of costly Cartier sunglasses. It came out that Jenkins had also provided Jamal with the phone used to record the video. After the disturbing finding was made, the case was reported to Fulton County Sheriff Patrick Labatt, who swiftly terminated the employment of the 36-year-old individual. Labatt then issued an arrest warrant for her, and she was brought before the court. Jenkins was charged with 1 count of supplying an inmate with a forbidden object with authorization, 5 counts of improper sexual contact by an agent or employee, and 2 charges of violating an oath by a public officer. Additionally, she was charged with 2 charges of reckless conduct and 2 counts of cruelty to convicts for her actions. On March 22, 2023, Sheriff Labatt issued a press release criticizing her behavior. He stated that her actions do not reflect the men and women who work for the Fulton County Sheriff's Office. Instead, he implored the public to appreciate the vast majority of workers for their honesty, dedication to providing excellent customer service, and the hard work they put in daily. Even though she was already being humiliated, the community on Twitter had a lot to say about her behavior, which the vast majority of users regarded as stupid. The case against Jenkins is still being heard, but there is no question that she will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. 4. Denise Prell. In the fall of 2015, Denise Prell was hired as a supervisor in the tailor shop at Clinton Correctional Facility in Dannemora. Fast forward to 2017, a guard caught Prell engaging in inappropriate behavior with an inmate. It would become the next big scandal since the Joyce Mitchell case of 2015. The year Prell was employed, a former Dannemora prison worker notoriously helped her 2 lovers escape prison. Before her arrest, Prell was working on the set of a Showtime documentary on the infamous jail escape. She was the assistant to Patricia Arquette, who was playing Joyce Mitchell. Little did anyone know that the 39-year-old supervisor was also guilty of a similar crime. In the spring of 2016, Prell was transferred to Taylor 5, where she met with the inmate she would later be sexually involved with. Her lover was convicted of manslaughter and was serving time for his crime. They began to write letters to each other. The letters were written to Gwendolyn Freeman, the new name her lover adopted. The reason for choosing that name was not difficult to see. Gwendolyn was Prell's middle name, and Freeman meant that the inmate would soon be a free man. Over the years, their relationship blossomed, and they talked about having sex. Prell would reveal that they first kissed in the tailor shop on a Saturday and touched each other through their clothing. A few months before their affair was discovered, the inmate was transferred to Elmira Correctional Facility, where they engaged in explicit acts when Prell visited. They planned on living together after Freeman's release from prison 20 years ago, and investigators calculated that Prell sent him at least $350 throughout the relationship. I want you guys to note that while all these were happening, Prell lived with her 37-year-old husband, Matthew Prell, in Schuyler Falls, Clinton County, New York. You can only imagine the hurt he must have felt to know that his wife, whom he thought was faithful, was having a sexual affair with another man locked up behind bars. Prell's case triggered a multi-agency criminal investigation by the state police, the New York State Department of Corrections, and Community Supervision Office of Special Investigations, the New York State Inspector General Office, and the Office of Clinton County District Attorney. The involvement of these agencies showed how sensitive the state considered Prell's crime to be. It would be the second time the Clinton County Jail would be having such a scandal, and swift punishment, it seemed, was necessary as a deterrent for others. Prell was arrested in October 2017. She was charged with first-degree promoting prison contraband, 3 RD-degree sexual abuse, and 23 counts of official misconduct. A year later, she was divorced, and her husband had taken custody of their children. The penitent Prell admitted she was wrong and pleaded guilty to all charges. 3. Tina Gonzalez. In the words of Assistant Sheriff Steve McComas, Tina Gonzalez's actions are something only a depraved mind can come up with. Being her former boss and a correctional officer with 26 years of experience at the sheriff's office, his words hold some salt. In December 2019, prison authorities at Fresno County Jail were tipped that one of their own, Tina Gonzalez, was in a relationship with an inmate. The inmate bragged about sexual activity with the 27-year-old, who reportedly gave him a cell phone. In response, the jail guards thoroughly searched his cell and found the cell phone, proving the information was correct. Gonzalez was questioned on the affair, but vehemently denied it. Soon after, she resigned, ending her 3-year stint at the facility. However, if she thought she had escaped, she was in for a shocker. The long arm of the law would eventually catch up with her, and she would face the repercussions of her lust. The sheriff's office began an investigation into the matter and found evidence that supported the allegations. Gonzalez was indeed in an intimate relationship with an inmate while working in the jail, but it did not stop there. And what the investigators would find led to McComas's scathing remark about her actions. Gonzalez had sexual intercourse with her lover in the presence of 11 other inmates. She had cut a hole in her uniform to make it easier to have sex. Oh my God. A full-blown OnlyFans content by a law enforcement officer who was supposed to be a model of decency. Her crimes also included providing the inmate with a cell phone and drugs and sharing critical information. Gonzalez told her jailbird lover when his cell would be searched and who searched it. Their relationship lasted over a year before they were caught, and she resigned. In May 2020, she was arrested and charged to court, where she pleaded no contest. Speaking in her defense, her attorney said she was made vulnerable due to her failing marriage. However, no one could explain or justify why she kept calling her lover even after her arrest, as phone logs showed. Her former boss, McComas, was adamant that she had betrayed her oath. According to the veteran officer, Gonzalez put the lives of her fellow workers at risk and deserved the maximum sentence of 3 years. Fortunately for her, Judge Michael Idiard was lenient and noted her early admission of her crime and clean criminal record. He sentenced her to 7 months in jail and 2 years probation. For many, Gonzalez got off too easy. Do you agree with that? Let me know in the comments section. 2. Joyce Mitchell. Remember Denise Prell, the Clinton Correctional Facility worker caught engaging in a sexual act with an inmate? Well, she was not the first prison seducer at that prison. Before Prell, we had Mitchell. Joyce Mitchell became infamous after her role in the sensational 2015 Clinton Correctional Facility escape. Mitchell was caught in a love triangle with convicted murderers Richard William Matt and David Paul Sweat. Blinded by the twisted affair, Mitchell helped both inmates escape from prison. The elaborate escape, compared to the Shawshank Redemption movie, made headlines across the United States. Joyce Mitchell became the target of harsh criticism in the media. On June 6, 2023, correctional officers at the Clinton Correctional Facility in Dannemora, New York, were conducting the usual 5:30 head count when they made an alarming discovery. 2 inmates in honor block, Richard Matt and David Sweat, were missing from their cells. All the officers found was clothing under their sheets. Matt was serving a 25 years to life sentence, with a chance at parole in 2032. He was born and raised in Tonawanda, New York, and was a career criminal convicted of various crimes, including theft, burglary, rape, and assault. He had been arrested for stabbing a man to death in the restroom at a bar. The murder got him a 23-year sentence, but in 2007, he was charged with second-degree murder for an earlier crime. Before committing the restroom murder, he had robbed his former boss years ago, killed, and dismembered him. The second trial got him the current 25 years to life jail term. David Sweat was raised by a single mother in Binghamton with 2 sisters. He had a troubled childhood, went through foster care, and was homeless in his teens. In 2002, a sheriff's deputy spotted him and his gang transferring stolen arms into a vehicle. Sweat shot him multiple times and ran him over. The cop killer eventually pled guilty to first-degree murder to avoid capital punishment. He received life without parole. It was unlikely either of them would ever be released from prison, so they devised a plan to escape from prison. Joyce Mitchell was to be an important part of their escape plan. Mitchell, who was a tailor shop supervisor at the Dannemora prison, reportedly began a relationship with both Matt and Sweat. According to reports, she professed her love for Sweat in notes she secretly sent him, but also allegedly engaged in numerous sexual encounters with Matt in the tailor shop. In 2015, she agreed to help both inmates escape by providing them with materials and being their getaway driver. Mitchell allegedly smuggled hacksaw blades, chisels, and other tools into the prison in frozen hamburger meat, which a guard later gave to the inmates. She also reportedly bought 6 hacksaw blades and delivered them directly to Matt. The inmates used power tools to cut through the back of their cells, broke through a brick wall, cut into a steam pipe, and then slithered through it, finally emerging outside the prison walls through a manhole, officials said. They left behind a note on the pipe that had a stereotypical Asian smiley face, wearing a triangular rice hat. It read, "Have a nice day." Mitchell was supposed to provide them with a getaway car and drive them to Mexico, leaving behind her husband and son. It did not go according to plan because she developed cold feet and did not show up. A manhunt was instituted immediately, and for the next 22 days, officers would search tirelessly for both men. Eventually, on June 26th, Matt was spotted in Franklin County and engaged in a shootout with the U.S. Border Patrol. He was shot thrice in the head and died on the spot. Sweat was captured 2 days later. He had tried to escape and was shot by a state trooper but survived his injuries. Mitchell confessed her involvement in the plot on June 16th, revealing that she had provided the tools. She also revealed that she and Matt had planned to kill her husband after they escaped. Sweat pleaded guilty to 2 felony counts of first-degree escape and another count of promoting prison contraband. He was sentenced to 3.5 to 7 years, to be served consecutively with his previous life sentence. He was further ordered to pay $79,841 in restitution. Joyce Mitchell, defended by a Clinton County public defender, pleaded guilty to promoting prison contraband and criminal facilitation. She was sentenced to 2.25 to 7 years in prison, fined $6,375, and ordered to pay $79,841 in restitution. A third accomplice, a guard, was given 6 months in jail, but released after 4 months for good behavior. Like Mitchell, he had smuggled tools into prison for the criminals. In 2018, Escape from Dannemora, a 7-part television miniseries, was filmed for Showtime. Ben Stiller directed it, and Patricia Arquette, who played Joyce Mitchell, won multiple awards for her role in the series. Mitchell was granted parole and released from prison in February 2020. She is under community supervision and on probation. Her husband Lyle has stuck with his wife throughout the saga, and they reunited after her release. He told the media he believed his wife was manipulated, and for his sake, we hope so too. Number 1. Vicky White. Vicky White was a model employee, an honest, straight-to-a-fault corrections officer who had the utmost respect of everybody in her department. After working for 17 years in the Lauderdale County Corrections Facility, she had risen to the position of assistant director, and both her superiors and subordinates knew she was a solid worker. Hence, it shocked everyone when her name entered the most wanted list, and an arrest warrant was issued to bring her in. Her crime? She had helped an inmate, Casey White, escape from prison and fled with him. The story of Vicky White is both sad and tragic. She was a 56-year-old widow with no children. Her daily routine was to go to work, visit her mother, and walk her dog. Thus, 38-year-old Casey White must have been like an injection of colors to her world of black and white. Despite having similar surnames, they were not related. According to investigators, their relationship started in early 2020. Casey was serving a 75-year jail term in state prison for crimes he committed in 2015. He was brought to Lauderdale County in 2020 to stand in the box for murder charges, and that was when Vicky first met him. Casey returned to state prison, but Vicky remained in touch with him through phone calls. In February 2020, Casey returned to Lauderdale to attend court hearings for the murder charges, and a special relationship began between him and Vicky White. Co-workers noticed Casey got special privileges from her, which no one else was receiving, such as extra food on his tray. As assistant director of the prison, winning her favor must have been a jackpot for him. And even though the lovers might have tried to keep it under wraps, their special relationship was soon noticed. Vicky's reputation as a strict, upright jail worker did not help matters. Undoubtedly, if she suddenly began to favor an inmate, people would take note of it. However, her reputation was intact, and no one thought in a million years she would have anything intimate to do with an inmate. She had been working at Lauderdale County Jail for nearly 2 decades, and her slate was clean as stainless steel. As her retirement drew closer, to all and sundry, it would be a well-deserved exit for a hard worker. Months before her retirement, she revealed she wanted to retire at a beach. By the looks of it all, it was to be a reward to an excellent worker who had dispensed her duty with integrity for almost 2 decades. Strangely, she sold her house just as retirement day drew closer. The home was listed at over $235,000, but she traded it for $95,550. That was not even up to half the price. In hindsight, it showed her desperation, but no one could have known why. She purchased a 2007 Ford Edge soon after, one of the vehicles that would be used in the dramatic escape she would mastermind in April 2022. She also bought firearms and men's clothing. At 9:30 a.m. on April 29, 2022, Vicky escorted Casey to a police vehicle and left the detention center. It was the day she was supposed to retire, but she had not finalized her paperwork. Vicky said she was taking him for a mental health evaluation, and afterward, she would check into the hospital for medical care herself. According to Lauderdale County Sheriff Rick Singleton, she broke jail protocols by taking Casey alone. Prison policy states that inmates must be escorted by 2 deputies when leaving the detention center. Vicky exploited her position as assistant director to get Casey out, as the booking officer would not question their superior. Authorities would later find out there were no court evaluations for that day. When surveillance video showed Vicky at a gas station 8 minutes after leaving the detention center, the sheriff's office feared she had been forced or coerced to aid his escape. A manhunt began to find them and return Vicky home safely. After investigations revealed that Vicky was in fact in a relationship with Casey, her employment was terminated, and an arrest warrant for her was issued. The fugitives would ditch the Ford Edge and change cars multiple times during the 11 days they were on the run. They would also check in and out of several motels. On May 9, 2022, they were spotted in Indiana, and a chase ensued. Vicky White shot herself in the head while Casey ran into a ditch and was captured. Vicky was rushed to a hospital where she was pronounced dead. On July 11th, Casey White was charged with the felony murder of Vicky White. It was eventually dropped when he pleaded guilty to first-degree prison escape. At his court hearing, he insisted that he loved Vicky and claimed she was the first person to hug him in 6 years. He also apologized to her family, saying Vicky only regretted leaving them behind. Over 200 people attended Vicky's burial. She had received 4 Employee of the Year during her career and was set to receive the 5th in her last year before the regrettable prison escape. Her tragic story does not change the fact that she was a pillar of her community, a shining example to many for decades.